to the point where now the rest of us in the middle have to sacrifice basic life to appease two groups of extremists who don't like each other.
Yes, everybody, how we doing? Red Pill Phil here, speaking from the dungeon. But I'm doing all right, and I'm still beaming positivity, even though YT don't want that to happen.
You got a hard time.
I ain't gonna let them do that to me. So thank you very much. This post is whilst I'm under current curtailments, let's say. So thank you very much for jumping on. You often hear me on this channel talk about a lovely lady called Tony Bugle. Tony Bugle's been an important factor to this channel and to my development and growth in what I've been doing. Tony Bugle opened a chat up, a WhatsApp chat, just a friendly chat with a few individuals, intelligent, rational. This chat's probably been going for about best part of 2 years, to be fair, on and off. This chat was called The A-Team. If anyone's a follower to this channel, they'll know that in the past, I've had members of the A-Team on in various formats, talking about various points. First, I'm going to say Red Pill Phil on YouTube. Hello and welcome along.
Our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep.
Oh, goddamn hacker, that second damn night that asshole's cut in.
Yes, mate. How are you doing, Joe?
Not bad, mate. How are you, all right?
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for calling me intelligent and rational, by the way. You may regret that later on.
The bottom line is, what I've experienced on that chat is a chat room that is level-headed.
Yeah.
And we can discuss all manner of points. No one gets upset because we all appreciate everyone's position. We're all on the same team with our goals and ideals anyway, even if we are fighting it from our own individual camps in terms of gender, in terms of skin tone, in terms of religion, because there's representatives to all of them on that chat.
We're the most diverse group going.
It is. It is. I mean, let's talk about this, mate. I've just been talking about Tony Bugle.
I've known Tony for several years. She invited me in because she, we used to talk a great deal. We'd have disagreements here and there, but most of the time we've always admired each other, especially, I obviously admired Tony. And it was a great honor to be invited in, especially with some of the people I met there, like yourself. You're much better thinkers than I am.
From what I've just been hearing, mate, honestly, don't do that. Because we've just been having a chat where I've been listening and learning from you. We're all in the same camp. We're all trying to find our way. And I've met a group of people that are very eloquent, very intelligent and articulate. But still, we're all struggling to articulate what the hell is going on in so many different, and it doesn't matter now, does it? You know, because it doesn't matter how well you speak, don't matter what your IQ is, don't matter how good your video is. It's literally now common ground. It's a common ground thing.
I think it's spreading across the political spectrum as well. Now you see, left wingers like Corbyn, opposing government tyranny. You're like, well, thank you for not being authoritarian for once and wanting to get cracked down and get more power for yourselves. You've just seen it with the protest in London. People are suddenly really worried about these COVID rules. Oh, well, they shouldn't be doing that. We should be able to protest. Yes, we should. But where were you 6 months ago when other people were saying this? I think crossing this political spectrum now, people are wondering what's going on. More and more people.
It's probably been a drip for longer than we realise or probably want to admit, Joe. I've been covering marches for, I could actually say a few years, if not several now. It's touching 4, maybe 5 I've been doing this. And what I've noticed for a while, the way the police kettle people in, the other tactics they have, the the helicopters that are down low, you know, the way they look like Robocops when they could use soft uniform. There's so many tactics where they've pushed what is regarded as a protest now, particularly working class issues that affect working class people and get working class people out on the streets. They've pushed them into I feel has been a dissident position for a couple of years. They've been trying to do that. I don't know what your view is on that.
Well, if you want to talk about a class thing, this has always been a big problem. I think I was reading Spiked. There was this thing about demonizing the working class, which does come from this sort of metropolitan upper middle class elite. It's always been there, but it's shifted. So you get anything like Brexit, for example. Oh, it's the working class, thick, uneducated. Don't know what they're voting for. They're obviously all racist. It's a very sort of punching down now. We keep it. Oh, you can't punch down. Who should we blame? White working class men. Is that going to sit well? Yeah, but they're white.
I'll make this point, and then I'd love to hear your opinion on it. Black Lives Matter and the Extinction Rebellion condemn government for rushing through draconian anti-protest bill. When I was reading articles on this, they were trying to say that there was 3 factors that created this.
Yeah.
The protest that happened just the other week, Black Lives Matter, where they've been defacing and, ripping up statues wherever they could, and Extinction Rebellion for their repeated criminal damage, you could say. They've been able to utilise them to say that we need to basically curtail people who want to redress, who want to protest. One, that's ironic because I'm surprised they didn't use the far right angle there. 2, I'm thinking, well, both of these organisations are what you would regard as far left if you're talking about paradigms. And 3, these guys have actually shown themselves now because they've actually both written a joint statement. So that does mean that they're both aligned in what is a far left agenda. And 4, let's throw another one in. The fact that they were highly organised and the police, their way of treating their protesters at the time in terms of uniforms and, arrest them and deeming them in the press was far lighter than any march that I'd ever been to. Bit of a long rant there, but what's your thoughts, Joe?
Yeah, the sheer irony of it. It's unbelievable, isn't it? They know they're doing this. Well, they're doing it for the self-interest, aren't they? They're going to crack down on what peaceful protests. Well, they're not peaceful protesters. But really, they know they are the target. They have caused this problem. And maybe you're right. Maybe it's been allowed to happen so that the government can step in and say, well, hey, we need some more powers. You're not doing too well. You guys didn't do too well with COVID, did you? So we need to lock you down. Well, you can't be trusted to do things yourself. Look what happens when we have protests. Look, we have to arrest some girl at the so-called vigil. It was a protest, really. I can't believe the irony that these people are now trying to stand up for things the rest of us have been doing. The free speech issue comes to mind. You have a far leftist that talk now about, oh, I've been cancelled. It's like, yeah, well, welcome to the club. What did you think was going to happen?
These were the same guys that wanted to ban anyone that was slightly right or centre of right and left. And, they created their own little pie chart. And if you wasn't up for being this collectivized mind, then you were deemed that you weren't able to monetize, you could get banned, you could get all these things that happen to you. But the irony there, like you say, mate, it stinks to the point where, was that a plan? We don't know, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any means, but we do know the amount of money that must have gone into their marches and the organisation. Where's that money come from? Is it crowdfunded? So who's helping them to organise and do what they're doing? And that is a worrying aspect when you know that a normal, everyday grassroots march looks nothing whatsoever like that. So then you think, where's the organisation coming from? They look too well organised.
This is kind of the problem. You see it with Antifa. They're not apparently an organisation. They have no central leadership. So where do the plans come from? And I think the plans really come from the idea that they're a cult. They have a belief system, a structural system that makes sure that they will always follow the path, as it were. You can have autonomous groups within it, but they will always do what's expected of them because there's a central belief system that cannot be changed. It's a culture a little bit different from, say, other religions where you can have some free will, you can have interpretation, there is no deviation. And once you have everyone indoctrinated into that central ideology, everyone will know what's expected of them and everyone can lead it themselves. It's a very, very sinister movement that's happening. And I think maybe the government are trying to crack down on it this way. Not the way to do it because it curtails the rest of our freedoms. It's a lot like locking up men after 6 p.m. It curtails everyone's freedoms because you have a few people there that are dangerous. And make no mistake about it, the far left are very dangerous. They control institutions already.
Yeah. So then it makes you think then. We spoke about critical race theory and all these other Marxist agendas that have been asleep through the educational system. They're not being called out enough to make me satisfied with what you just said, as in maybe the police are trying to crack down on it. When we followed March after March, and you've seen they've been quick to vilify, the headlines come out before people have actually got on the train home. Everyone knows exactly the way it's going to be categorized and the demonization that will follow. No one's quick to level the playing field there. You know what I mean? So they've let these guys run riot for the past year, 2 years. Probably the one that they should be worried about, which is Stalin. No one ever went near that. No one wanted to criticize it because it was narrative based. The narrative had to be, let's find someone that fitted a certain era where we can dog them.
Yeah. I'm reminded actually with these protests, a couple of years back, there was a certain, shall we say, right-wing street movement. I won't name the name just in case it hurts your channel. And you could see the narrative come out in the papers because there was a live feed by, I think it was RT, and you could see this skirmish happen with the police and certain figures wearing all black, carrying a black and red flag. We know who they are. The Sun posted a picture of this and it said, far-right protesters tackle police. And I thought that's very strange because Antifa are definitely not far-right. And this happened before the protest started and we saw it live. It was a live feed online. The narrative is always going along with what the media wants to sell. And I think what the media wants to sell is, look, the left wing is not as heartless as the right wing. The right wing are evil. It leads to various things like fascism and whatever, death camps. The left wing are nothing like that. They're compassionate. They care about poor people and the elderly and different minorities. So we should listen to them. We both know that's an absolute load of... But that's the narrative that's pushed. And I think the main reason is because most of the media are left wing. And they can't have their side demonized by the right wing.
So where's the truth then, Joe? If it's all a game and you're just on about defending your own paradigm. You know what I mean? There's casualties in the middle. It's almost like football teams, isn't it? And we've just played Man City. City just trounced us. I've got to go and work the next morning. But there's no way I'm going to let any of my mates wind me up because my team's just done a trouncing. So I'll go into defence mode over my team and I'll start slagging their team off instead of me just taking the hit. And it's that childish, isn't it?
It's basically like gang warfare, isn't it? That's all they're like teams, exactly like teams. It could be Liverpool and Everton, it could be Man City and Man U. Doesn't matter. Their side is different from our side. Whatever they do, we hate. They'll hate whatever we do, and if we do it, even if we agree, they'll hate it anyway. So, where do you end? Where do you end this? It's like tit for tat. It reminds me of sort of the American gangs. Well, they did something, so we'll get back at them, but they'll get back at us. And it keeps going forever and ever and ever. No one's ever going to stop this drama. to the point where now the rest of us in the middle have to sacrifice basic life to appease two groups of extremists who don't like each other, but no one else likes them. I can't understand that. The race obsession for one. You've got these ethno-nationalists on one side, and then you've got these race-baiting leftists on the other side, and everyone else is just looking between them, like watching a tennis match, going, "What the hell is going? Well, somebody just dropped the ball."
Yeah, and meanwhile, the centrists have got all the power in the middle. The centrists tend to be the ones that are not going to any radical extremes in their way of thinking or actions as well. I'm not saying there's not.
But when they've got the power, they do pander to the extremes, because I know centre-left people, and if you criticise the far left, they do take it as an attack on them. Likewise, I know centre-right people, and if you criticise something on the far right, they don't want leftists to have that advantage over their team, as it were, their side. So you sort of get this. A lot of the arguments seem to be within the centre right and centre left. The far right and far left have virtually nothing to do with each other.
The funny thing is, there's been so many accusations that the far left and the far right both need each other.
Oh, they do. Without one, the other wouldn't exist.
To the point where I wouldn't say they're both working with one another, because that is a silly claim. You'd have to red dot that one sufficiently. But
yeah,
it is a game that they both fuel each other, and because of it, the casualties are the centrists. And in some ways, because it becomes a team and a flag thing, the centrists will be getting picked off. So centrists will be becoming more left-leaning, more far left-leaning, more right-leaning, because they can see that things may be not looking right. And I've watched it within my growth doing YouTube. I've watched centrists go far right.
Yeah.
Literally, they were YouTubers of mine, chilled out. Now they're all F-nats, and, I'm a nat, so I'm a second-class citizen to them. Like, shit, you subbed to me 2 years ago. You were a blinding geezer. Wow, you've let all this get to you, haven't you?
I've seen that happen, but the other thing I've seen is when you're not on one of the extremes, you are an extremist to each side. You're always an extremist. I had it actually. There was a political argument I was involved in, and within the same thread, I was called a fascist and a communist, which is madness, because I'm a libertarian. I'm not in any way an authoritarian, but. No, apparently, because I don't believe in the white genocide plan, because I think it's pretty first point, that made me some far left lunatic. I was like, okay, I just think that, there's not really any difference. Race is not an important issue. Straight away, a leftist jumped in and said I had white privilege. And they called me a white supremacist further down, because I can't remember. It was something, that most people think, well, that's a fair point, but it's funny being called a white supremacist when technically you're not white. But
it's deflecting. Well, I know it, but it's deflecting, and this is the redundant part about it. Just look at yourself. If someone comes up to me and has a slightly different opinion, or even a far opinion, an extreme opinion, there's no point in me trying to keep him in that spot. Well, you're this, you're that.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we're just different in our opinions, and I'm like, man, is that where you see it? This lefty trick, and all you're doing, you're placing each other in them boxes that neither of you want to actually be in. So how are you ever going to get out of it when in reality that you're not even in it?
That's the trap. That's the trap, especially with the far left. Once you've been denounced as a racist or a sexist, you will never get out. You're stuck for life. Once you get that name, it never leaves. You can't absolve yourself, ever. You are stuck.
Oh, yes! Yes!
This is what we're doing now. We're tearing down statues from people that lived hundreds of years ago. Well, they were racist, so they got to go. Can you say anything in defense? No, that's it. They're done. And once someone says, you don't even have a right of reply anymore. That's it. You're a racist. I've had this. I was called out as being a racist, and somebody asked a friend of mine, "Is Joel racist?" She said, "No," and his answer was, "Why have so many people said he is?" I said, "Because they're far left. That's what they do. They call me a racist, and because they've called me it, now it sticks. There's no way you can ever justify anything because you're a racist."
Oh, hang on a second.
I don't know who I'm a racist against. They couldn't tell me, but I know I'm a racist. So I don't know. I don't know where to go with that.
Ignore it.
Well, that's what I do now. You know, people go, "Well, you know, you're transphobic," and what else can you say? Right? And okay, fine. I don't care anymore.
I know, but I just don't see what they're achieving by doing it. And
Actually, I do.
go on then, mate. What's your opinion?
When I speak about cultism, because they're so ingrained in a belief system from which there's no escape. Remember, this is the whole life. Their identity revolves around this membership. They get kudos for calling out other people, and they will continue to call out other people. When you do that, it doesn't matter how many bodies you walk over. You're part of the group. It's like the old Bushism. You're either with us or against us. They see things in a very binary view. So people are either racist or they're anti-racist. It's not good enough to be like, well, I'm just not racist. I don't care. No, you're racist or actively anti-racist. There's no in between. There never is an in between. So as far as they're concerned, you're either good, you've read the sacred text, you've become enlightened, you have access to this secret information that the thick people don't understand, they will never get, or you're evil. That's the only way they see it. You're either good or bad. That's what they get from it. They like being seen as good. Think about the amount of times people virtue signal. Why would companies change their logos to the rainbow colors during, you know, LGBT History Month or whatever it is? Well, because it looks good. We're not bad. We don't want to be bad, so we're good. That's how it is. It's a very simplistic way that they think. And I've noticed I've got friends that are on the far left. I've got friends that are far right. You know, but most of my friends are somewhere in between. But I do have friends that do have some extreme views, and they're difficult to talk to, but they see the world in a very black and white way. Good, bad.
And have you always known them in them set positions, or have you watched them transition?
Or I've seen people I knew since I was at school, and they have changed. They have changed somewhat drastically. I had some friends that were very average people. They've become militant feminists. They've one guy, sad, it's strange that he even speaks to me, you know, given I'm a mixed race Orthodox Jew. He was a National Front member and still has some of those views. But it's strange, I think, because of the background, the history. They still talk to me, you know, they'll talk openly about things. But if you don't agree with them, it's very strange. If you don't agree, you're bad. And they will talk down to you just because you do not believe what they believe. It's not the fact that you can have a conversation and maybe find some sort of common ground, maybe agree to disagree. No, you either believe what they believe or you're bad.
Well, then that's the true definition of extreme, then, isn't it?
Yeah, but extremists never realize they're extreme. They always think they're doing it for the greater good, which is another thing cults do. Scientologists, they don't want to get rid of the suppressive people because they're evil. It's for the greater good of humanity. It's always for the greater good.
And look what they're causing, trying to achieve that height, mate.
There you go. You can morally self-license yourself to do anything.
Yeah.
What you're doing is the greatest thing for humanity. The Nazis believe this. The communists believe this. They believe that they could do this. They could annihilate people because it was the right thing to do for everyone. Of course, everyone else knew it wasn't. But they wouldn't listen to anyone else because anyone that didn't believe it is wrong.
No, I'm loving this conversation, and this is what I was saying before. You were saying that I love the way you made me out to be an intelligent geese. I mean, look at the way you're very knowledgeable and you know what you're talking about. And
I'm just winging it.
aren't we all? Because these
well, I think life is winging it, isn't it? You know,
it is. But the one thing life is, Joel, is tolerance of ideas and individuals. And if you adhere to that, you're halfway there. And I just don't get why we have all these complexities. People oversimplify what is fundamentally there. It's cheap. It's nothing. It's that valueless. It's called life. It's called we've got one of them, and it's called the person next door to you has got exactly the same experience as you.
Extremists don't believe in life anyway. They believe in a greater good, but they can never explain why. Because, you know, if you take the sort of eco warriors now, they would happily see the population diminish to protect the environment. But what's the point of the environment if we're not here to enjoy it? You know, everything comes before human life. Their ideology always comes before people's lives, people's feelings, even though they're very emotional. And most of these extremists play to emotion. They're actually terrifying people, and they don't realize it because they genuinely think they're doing the right thing. You know, even Adolf believed he was doing the right thing. If you fervently believe you're doing the right thing, you could do some evil, real evil, and always think, what did I do wrong?
I get your point. When you think about it, mate, that's exactly what's happening. If you've got someone who is ultimately worried about the climate and would quite happily take away 70-80% of the population in order to get it in balance with the climate, that is an imbalance of the mindset. Because although you've got these warm feelings for rejuvenating the planet and letting it breathe, you're doing the ultimate genocidal act to human beings. So at what point do you still think that that's a beautiful thing to do when you've already contradicted yourself in that very one act?
Well, that's it. You have to ask these people, what comes first to you, the group or the individual? If it's the group, then you don't have any individuals. There's no individual identity. They don't matter. Well, we can get rid of this person, and that person's thinking, why me? Well, you're not part of the group. I mean, you see this with the racial supremacists. They're not part of the group. They're the out group. It doesn't matter if they're all different people and have nothing in common. They're not us. Therefore, they don't matter. And my left-wing friends are actually, like even my centrist left-wing friends, are terrifying in this regard. Because they see it as in-group, everyone else. It's a fucking scary way of looking at the world.
It is.
I mean, it genuinely terrifies me.
I'm so glad because I've never covered it like this, and it's all because of you, my friend. It's all because of this, because we're talking about another dimension now that's not often discussed within left-right paradigm, within fundamentalism, radicalization, whatever you call it. We're human beings that can have such a spectrum in thought where they can justify the most overtly horrible things to other people in their virtuousness themselves. And that is the cancelling thing that is redundant to me. You know, I'm all up for saving the planet. Let's make it more sustainable. Let's educate everyone to look after the planet. Not bomb an island and let's make it a bit more empty over there so we can all breathe a little bit fresh air. It's cancelling it out. I just don't get it. But this is fascinating trying to find out the workings of a mind. I mean, we could have done with one of your left-wing thinking friends and right-wing thinking friends as long as they can hold themselves within this stream to basically explain their position, not to attack them for it, just to try and understand.
Yeah, I do this a lot on Facebook, actually. You know, I disagree with them and they sort of bear up because any extremist, and I think even so many of the centre-left have become extremists now, are very emotional people. There's always an emotional plea. You know, it doesn't matter if you're discussing race or abortion or the latest murder that's happened. It's an emotional thing. You know, but how would you feel? What about how does this feel, etc., etc.? And people get angry because of that emotional element where no one really wants to discuss reason. I think Thomas Sowell said this, you know, people can easily discuss emotion, but they can't discuss rational ideas. One thing that does scare me is this massive focus on feeling. I think it's disastrous because I hate to say this, but we've actually caught an American disease. American culture and media is very emotionally driven. Ours was, you know, I suppose it was always that stiff upper lip thing, and that was in its way sort of suppressive as well. But because we've become so emotional, we've lost all sight of what we actually think. You can't criticize, say, for example, the trans ideology. I don't mean if someone's got gender identity disorder, but I mean if you've got this. My stepdaughter was 12. There are kids in her class. She's in year 7. They're all non-binary and trans. They've got different pronouns. They tell people they have to use them, or they're transphobic. These are 11 and 12-year-olds, and they get outcast from the group. And this is a very bizarre thing because when I was 12, this didn't exist. You didn't have this sort of play of emotion this is the battleground now. It's the emotional battleground. It's difficult to understand for me. I kind of get it. I see that it's psychologically driven. It's a fact of culture that's been ingrained into us. But at the same time, how do you fight it? Can you just fight it with facts and logic? Can you fight it with rational argument? Well, no, because people will cancel you. They won't listen. They'll just say, well, I feel, therefore it is. And if they know it's true, nothing can change their minds. That's what's led to genocides. I'm not saying these people will commit genocide, but I'm saying that this is the same mindset that leads to genocide.
But we've got to look at the incremental steps that are happening in front of us, Joe. You know what I mean?
Well,
the constant propaganda through TV, adverts, films, in their way, like you said before, trying to virtue signal and ultimately do the right thing by society, but doing it in such a way that is going against the grain, and you could say regressing society instead of advancing society. Society's probably, for me, got more chance of developing itself and was developing itself before the media decided to take upon this critical race theory within the media, as well as the educational system. And when I mean that, I'd say maybe I was naive, but the 80s and 90s told me that we were working stuff out. We were finding, there was more tolerance growing, there was love growing. And then it got to the 2000s, something just blew apart.
Again, I don't think the powers that be, who mostly happen to be people that have had liberal education, as it were, they've been to, when I was at uni, especially last time when I went to do my medical degree at the University of London, it was very, very left wing around Bloomsbury. And it was almost ingrained in people that you had to think a certain way, you weren't welcome. Luckily, I was part of a lot of postgrads from all over the world who didn't subscribe to this, but the younger ones did. And they sort of had this sort of sneering attitude towards people that didn't. And I think this has gone into media. Remember, these people that mostly focus on this at uni become teachers, social workers, they go into politics, they go into media. That you have to think this way. You have to know that this is wrong, and you have to go along with everything we say because it's wrong. So you think racism's wrong? Yeah, I think that's a ridiculous thing. If you're going to hate someone because it's color of skin, you're an idiot. Great. So let me tell you about microaggressions. What's that? Asking someone where they're from. What? Yeah, that's a sign of white supremacy. Oh, go away. No one believes that. But that is what they do. And because they say it so often, it becomes the truth. It becomes, like I said, why do so many people say Joel is racist? He must be, because they've said it. If they say microaggressions are a bad thing, they must be a bad thing. This is how the trickle-down effect is working. Small steps, over and over, just reinforce it, get them while they're young. They're literally doing it at the kids' school. Hey, presto, you've established truth in them. It might not be the truth, but it is what they call your truth.
And it's further and further away from what is regarded as a shared truth, Joe. And that's
exactly. Yeah.
How do you get them back?
Parents should do this, I think. We do it with the kids. I remind them that, for example, my daughter or stepdaughter has some issues with the trans lobby because she's a lesbian. They told her she has to be trans. She has to join the LGBTQ group. She said, I don't want to. I said, why? She said, well, I don't believe that you're trans. So people hate her because, as I've told her, if somebody says, I am a woman, if I told you I am a woman, anyone on the left would go, oh, well, he said he's a woman, therefore she's a woman. But now you've got this problem where what is objective truth? If you look at me, You now have no idea how the world operates. You don't know whether someone's male or female, whereas these words do mean something, and we have an objectivity when we look at the world. Like you said, there's a shared viewer. You know, for example, in science, if two observers can agree on the same thing that's been observed, therefore it must be true. If more observers see it, yes, we all see the same thing. This is the truth. However, I can buck that trend by going, yeah, sorry, mate, I'm not male, I'm female. And you have to, believe me, you have to go along with this, whether you like it or not.
They're nudging people into a falsehood then, which we kind of know anyway, but from the way you're defining it.
Yeah, because basically what they're saying is, we are in charge, we tell you what the truth is.
Yeah.
That's it. You have to agree with what we say, otherwise you are bad. And you don't want to be bad, do you? Oh, of course not. Right, so listen to us, we'll tell you what the truth is. So they'll pick up an apple, tell you it's an orange.
This is an orange. If you were told it was something else, you wouldn't believe it, would you? This is called visual identification based on experience.
You say, well, that's obviously an apple. No, it's not. How could you say that? You're wrong. So everything now comes down to who is in charge, which is really what they want. You know, every time I hear, why haven't we got so-and-so people in this position? What they mean is, we really want to be in that position. We want to have power. Why do you want to have power so badly? People that tend to get to the top do it through hard work, etc., or luck when it comes to politicians. But you do have to wonder about the sort of person that wants to be in charge of everyone. Why? Well, it can only be because you think other people are bad and you want to correct them. Because otherwise, there's no reason you want a job telling other people what to do.
And even there's a risk, even if you're Mary Poppins, mate, by the time you get to it, you could end up a right wronger because you've had to juggle in shark-infested waters to get to it. And sometimes you might get there and think, well, maybe I don't have as much power as I thought I did, as a lot of them are realising that they're just more front men than actually doing anything.
So they double down. They get aggressive, they cancel people, they do everything. Yeah. It's funny actually how they do cancel people, because a few people saying something on Twitter and corporations bend over. You think, well, they look at this, go, yeah, 3 people have complained, right? Who cares? But no, they will do what is apparently the right thing, whether it's because they believe it themselves or are they genuinely scared. I can't answer for them. But the fact that so many companies back down, everyone backs down, universities back down to pressure. I've seen it myself. You know, you're talking about critical race theory, which is basically just racism. It's racist theory. It's no different than something the Klan would come up with. I saw this at university. It was the Black Students' Union. And I saw the post. They used to be in the lift, and Black Students' Union, I think it was there for the the rights of, it was Black, Asian, Oriental, mixed race students. And I thought, you mean everyone but white? This is an orange. That's exclusionary. That's not. If they'd said that we've got an African Students' Union, but that's cool. They've got something in common. They've got some cultural heritage. That's great. They're probably miles away from home, etc. That's a really good thing. But when they say everyone except this group, you're like, that's a little bit different. That's basically like excluding me, which is what Hitler did. I would be gone.
That's where this good deed that they're trying to do cancels itself out, because it's not on a fair premise. What I've said before earlier in the stream, what I feel is going on now is I feel what was going on in the 60s and the 70s. It literally is, but instead of the black race, it's the white race. There's not violence. There's not, well, I'm sure there is in pockets, but to a degree, there's not a same amount of hatred because people have got common sense, but the mindset, the psychology is starting to change. If you keep saying there's a far right FNAT way of thinking, then you're garnishing it by mind control. Literally, you're bringing it back in yourself. They're not these waves of people that have always been far right and now's their time to rise. I mean, same again, the 90s told us that that's crap. And we've had 20 years coming from the 70s where we've seen that that way of thinking was just getting squashed out of society. But there's been many factions that's now just upsetting the apple cart on all demographics and keeping everyone in that game as well. I mean, going back to this, what you sent to me, Joel, on this chat, thank you for this. It was a very interesting article about GCHQ. They've obviously got
very, very interesting, this, isn't it?
Well, it is, and I mean, this is why I put it up now, because it just totally fits with what you're saying about, possibly getting jobs. And can you ever see a point where they would just exclude a race or every other race, or however you want to put it? Surely the best person for the job should apply. I mean, what did you think when you first seen this, Joe?
First of all, I thought it's exclusionary, therefore this is wrong and it's probably illegal. But I realised something that I've seen a lot of times when this sort of thing happens. The BBC did something similar. I'm thinking these people are actually the real white supremacists. You know, if you say, for example, you want to improve the demography in a company, we want, say, more black, more Asian people, we want more women. Okay, so if we don't allow white men to apply, why? You worry the white men will get the job? Well, that either tells me something about you or something about what you think about black, Asian, and women, because you obviously think if they have to compete against white men, they won't be able to do it, which is ludicrous. This is a very, very, it's a weird way of stating it. If you know, when we read the article, the advert, in that it says people from ethnic minorities, and it says or women from any ethnicity. So you basically mean no white men. Yeah. Why? I don't understand how this is legitimate discrimination, which can happen. You know, for example, the armed forces are exempt from the Equalities Act. Why? Because you don't want a tetraplegic joining the Royal Marines. It makes sense. That's why they don't have to abide wholeheartedly to the Equalities Act. Likewise, say, for example, you wanted an officer to work in a mosque. Well, it stands to reason you would ask a Muslim to do it, because they're going to understand the background, how, you know, the workings of the people that go to the mosque, etc., the religion. That makes sense. You can exclude other people. You can have this in-group preference for that job. But imagine if it said, yeah, we want someone to work in a company, anyone except a Jew. It's like, why? What's different? Well, there's just too many Jewish people working here. Too many Jewish people. It sounds wrong when you say it that way, but there's too many white people to work here. You'll be like, okay, fine, yeah, that's fine. We'll go with it.
Please note, this registration of interest is only open to those from an ethnic minority background or women from any ethnic background. Following a registration of interest period of several weeks, we will open this role for applications at this stage. Applications from candidates from all ethnicities and genders will be welcome. So that is, if it was a Grand National, you're letting a lot of the horses off first, and then when the others have done half a lap, you're then letting the others off.
Yeah, I mean, the weirdest thing there is, given the job, you think, why have you mentioned ethnicity or gender at all? It literally makes no sense whatsoever. Say, for example, you know, again, if you were making a film, say Nelson Mandela, you're not going to hire Brad Pitt to play that role. That would make no sense.
But yeah, Joel, you're right. You're totally right. And this is how crazy. You're right, but you're wrong. But you're right on both counts. And that sounds a realistic statement. But when you see in a series of period dramas that have got black people in major roles, when we know at the time of them period,
like Anne Boleyn.
Yeah, you know, you think, well, you're trying to rewrite history with this. There's an element of upside downness. I don't want that. If I'm looking at a black 70s nightclub that was filmed, a black exploitation film, are you going to shove a load of Celts in there just to, you know, make sure we've got the diverse groups all covered?
With the big ginger afros, you know, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, like taking actors, the only thing you really want is if they have a passing resemblance to the person. But now, it could be anyone. I mean, obviously, this is history. It's like, well, Anne Boleyn was Spanish, wasn't Spanish or French? I forget now. You know, it's been a long time since I was at school. but I'm pretty sure she wasn't from Ghana. You know, I'm pretty, fairly convinced. Likewise, like I said, Nelson Mandela. It's like, who should we get to play him? Oh, we got any ginger women? Whatever. Yeah,
Well,
fine. That's
I've got to
not weird
say,
at all.
obviously, you're red pilling. You need to go further on your level because if you can't find the link to Anne Boleyn and Ghana, mate, honestly, I thought you knew what you were talking about here, mate. And the moment I could gaslight you into thinking that that's a probable thing, that is where we've got the danger point in it, and that's actually going on as well, rewriting of history.
Yeah, it's also rewriting the future and the current as well. It's just like, well, black people don't have enough opportunities. Actually, the BBC did this. They were talking about minorities, homosexuals, and things, and it turns out all of these groups are overrepresented at the BBC according to the population, but they want more. And you think, well, this isn't really about representation. Say for example, GCHQ. Nobody that works there actually represents me. They represent themselves. They're not there as a representative from my group. I don't need someone, we've got our guy on the inside, as it were. That doesn't make any sense. They're just people that want jobs. And if they're qualified, they get jobs.
When you look at it like that, mate, then that's like identity politics into the body politic itself. With politics, instead of just appealing to the masses, let's carve them up. White, black, Muslim, we've got the gender over there, we've got this, that. Now we've got 6 or 7 different, that we can all play off and kind of play to that group, play to that group, instead of playing to them all because they're all the same voter that's paying the same taxes.
Yeah, we need to get everyone on side. So how do we do that? Well, if we tell them something's wrong, but we know how to fix it, we've got your representation. Now you're on our side, aren't you? We do this with everyone. We don't need to worry about the white men because they're going down, But we've got, the white cis het straight men, all that mumbo jumbo. We can do everyone else because we need them on our side, as if they weren't already. I mean, all of these things, GCHQ, there's no point being represented there because I don't know what they do, because I'm not allowed to know what they do. It's official secrets. So what is the point of having... Well, I don't even know what my community is supposed to be. Is it Jewish? Is it mixed race? Is it Bengali? I don't know. How many half Bengali Orthodox Jews work there? Probably none. I'm underrepresented. They should just hand me a job. I'll be the only one. It'd be great. I'll collect that. So, do you know what? I won't even turn up to work.
Because like that, you're going to be the mayor of London by next week.
Well, hey. I don't know what's going to happen with the mayor of London. If it's Khan, I'll be terrified. Mainly because he just doesn't know what he's doing. He goes off on so many tangents. I'm going to ban what was it, the adverts with body images that aren't natural or something like this, and it turns out the woman was a vegan athlete who actually looks like that. It's like, yeah, but it's unobtainable. Well, she's obtained it. Instead, you've got this, the X-Men, and this giant hulking beast of a man who eats Diana Ball for breakfast. Yeah, that makes sense, Sadiq. Well done.
Well, this is where it contradicts itself again, because I don't know whether it's a competition here, but that is more natural to me than someone who is teaching a load of 6-year-olds how to masturbate wearing a wig and,
it's madness. It's absolute madness. I shouldn't laugh because it's deadly serious, but when you look at it, the world looks like a parody of itself.
Yeah.
You've got everyone arguing over these, frankly, crazy things. Like, oh, well, so this is the latest thing. And this has happened to a friend of mine's daughter, my stepdaughter's friend. She is non-binary and trans. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can you be trans if there's no binary? Doesn't make any sense. But yes, you can be both of these things. You can be trans and non-binary at the same time, allegedly. Because people are just throwing these together, and it doesn't make any damn sense, but everyone knows that's a good thing. You're trans and non-binary. Well, the only reason I know these words is from studying organic chemistry as an undergraduate. Cis-trans isomerism. Cis means same, trans means opposite. I can't be the opposite if there's no bloody binary in the first place.
Semantics will always slice them open. And it's amazing how it just goes over a lot of people's heads. How do you see working around this to get to a conclusion where everyone can get back to a shared truth and start thinking along rational lines on whatever belief they've got, but still having a non-confrontational solution to it. Because it seems that all these problems we've discussed, mate, we know it, that it's done so much to divide the planet, not just your community, not just your city, your town, your country. It's far beyond that now. How do we get ourselves away from this? Is it a Marxist agenda? Whatever it is, just dark energy that is overtly turning people on each other.
That's a bloody good question. I don't know the answer. I'll try and take a stab at it. Why not?
Go for it.
I think for the mainly, there's ways that we don't deal with the questions. Take, for example, this idea of should there be a 6 p.m. curfew? Now, nobody has actually said that peer, that's such egregious sexism, she should resign immediately. But the other thing is, within the mainstream discussion, nobody's just mocking her and saying you're an absolute idiot. No one takes you seriously. We discuss this seriously. There's debates on talk radio and things like this where they will take this as a serious proposition. Well, what are the benefits and pros and cons? No, there are no pros and cons. It's a ridiculous situation. We should laugh them out of the building. That's the first step. And I think that's a vital one. This is the reason for satire and things like this. You can laugh at them, you don't take them so seriously, which means they're always open to challenge. They have to be. Because if they realize everyone is not going to just take them seriously at their face value, then you have a stepping stone on which to say, I can tell you why we're mocking you. This, and this. If they say, well, you're wrong, they say, well, why do you think everyone's laughing at you? It's not just because they're all bigots. It's because people realize what you said is stupid.
Well, that's the strength in public opinion, Joel, isn't it? Again, and it's realizing our true power. We've got it already.
We have. The majority of people don't go along with this stuff. The majority of people think this is absolutely ludicrous, but the majority of people don't have the say. The media does have a massive say. The alternative media, YouTube. There's lots of people on there that will call this out. But remember, the mainstream media are the people that have ads. They're the people that Google support. They're the people that are thrust in your faces. If I go onto my phone now and I look at Google, it's going to give me a load of news things that come from the people they want me to see. There's no political discussion, and more people I've seen have moved towards these fringes. And when you talk to them, it's one thing when I talk to friends I know personally, because they're less likely to get very confrontational on things. They might disagree. But it's quite another to talk to strangers. And one of the problems of the internet is we are told we have to talk to strangers and discuss. This is a good thing. I'm not so sure it is, because no one actually changed their minds. There's no accountability for anyone, but there's also no compromise. Why would I compromise with someone I've never met who doesn't know where I live? There's no talking in person.
Yeah.
There's no debates. We're stuck in limbo, actually.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people get very, distressed. That's it. I'm just going off social media. I can't cope with it. Of course not, because all you get is abuse. If they want to bring in rules, one thing, it should be, look, if you're just going to be rude to people, that should be against the rules. But everything else goes. Why? Because if you're going to say you can't say this, it's sexist. Well, what's sexist about it? I was actually called sexist. Why? Because there's this thing going around, don't teach your daughters how to protect themselves. Teach your sons not to attack women.
Yes.
Okay. I teach my sons not to attack women. I teach my daughters not to attack women. I teach them both not to attack men. But if you don't think I'm going to protect my damn kids, you're a lunatic, and teach them how to protect themselves. That's what everyone should know, especially boys. Boys are more likely to be attacked. We were young boys once. We know what it's like. We're living in a dream world, actually, where everybody's got an opinion. And most of these opinions just deserve mockery, nothing more. Don't tell me you've got new pronouns. It's ridiculous.
No, I think you've explained a lot there, and it makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, these illogical initiatives and ideas They only become a reality if you let them. Now, okay, you can get legislation, you can get laws, and they can clamp it out of anybody. But the wave of anxiety and frustration, if you let it become a product, might add to the acquiescence somewhat. If you don't take it seriously, act like a collective as a counter to it, but a collective that's collectively got his fingers up and laughing at the same time. Not being rude, not being disrespectful, but just showing that this populace is not a pushover. And this Marxist agenda, look, this is a society that is well tuned and knows what it wants and can see this coming from a mile away. I'd love to think that we're there, but I do feel we're miles away from it. People I regard as centralists, libertarians, liberalists, whatever you want to call them, we are the majority of people here.
Absolutely,
We're the ones trying to work this out while you've got the two extremities acting like children. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I actually say a lot of the time, you know, most people, I think the majority of people are liberal, libertarian, but they don't realise they are because they don't even know what these things are anymore. They've been told to think a certain way and they've got to think their way to be good. But when I actually know a lot of people that virtue signal online, and when I see them in person, let's put it this way, they're very different people when it comes to talking about this. You know, they're a lot more accepting of different viewpoints and they don't really go along with the things they do, the things they say online. It's just that they have to appear to go along with it, if that makes sense. You know, there's a certain acceptance that you get if you say the right thing, even though most people don't even agree with it. They don't even agree with it. I've seen people doing this and they all think it's crap, but they say it online to each other. And it's the most embarrassing ever because I don't know if it's just me. Maybe I'm a natural contrarian. I just like to argue, but
no, I think it's the fight between individuality and collectivism that we're seeing, mate. And even people that are probably not, they can't even understand it of playing their part in it. I've often said to my kids, even trends are collectivism. Because that's forcing you to buy a pair of pants that probably don't fit you. You probably don't like it, but you're being told through a series of adverts that you're going to look the dog's bollocks in there. And all of a sudden, you're going to be ignored by women. And it's like, it's a falsehood. And not only that, if you don't wear it, you're now retro. All of a sudden, I bought these jeans last week. No, you're retro now, mate. Look what they're wearing now.
You don't fit in. You haven't got the latest trainers, man. We're just going to take the piss out of you. Why? Well, you haven't got the stuff we're all buying. It's like, that's because I'm not a sheep. Maybe I don't need to spend all this money at corporations to fit in. Well, we do. We need to fit in. We need to because what you must have something else going. The idea of instilling individualism into children. Speak for yourself, no one else. That's what I teach the kids all the time. Speak for yourself, no one else. You don't owe anyone else an explanation. You just don't have to harm anyone else. No one's learning this lesson. I have to fit in. I have to do the thing that other people want me to do to impress them. Why do you need to impress people so much? Why can't you just think, well, maybe there's a better way of living my life? Because living with regret, if you go along with this, we've seen a lot of people go down this and leave these cults. And they said, I don't know what I was thinking. You know, I've had friends that have done it, and some of them have been very extreme, you know, and afterwards, actually, I made friends with a guy in my town who used to be a white supremacist till he found out he's actually Jewish.
What the fuck?
And yeah, he attacked a mosque, all sorts of things.
Wow.
And, well, you know, I'm Orthodox Jew, so I read about him in the paper and I reached out to him and he thanked me for reaching out to him. You know, I thought, well, it's the least I can do because I don't think people are necessarily bad. They might do bad things, but at least they learn, what the hell was I doing? Why did I go along with this crap?
Journey, man.
So, you know, he started learning more about it. Not many people will do this.
I love you. 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 I love you.
Even the pissing haters.
I love you. 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 I love you.